This is a lovely morning here in our little sun porch. I'm sitting here with Deanna Minich, and we are getting to know each other. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm really, really curious to know more about your program that involves color and healing and all the food aspects. So you're just the perfect person for us to talk with.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this kind invitation to your home, which has such a loving, nurturing feel, and you made such a beautiful, colorful meal last night for us to share in. So thank you for that. Yeah, one of the things that I think is important for all of us to do with food is bring each other together through that experience of eating. And oftentimes within the whole field of nutrition, what happens is people start to separate themselves. They have certain diets, and so then they remove themselves from kind of the sharing experience of that kind of collective need that we all have to eat. So one of the things as a scientist that I realize is that I need to somehow orient food into a more spiritual or artful, creative way. So I have 3 principles as it relates to food that I think can apply to most people. And the first one is what you already mentioned, which is color. Most people aren't eating a very colorful diet. You are, but most people are eating brown, yellow, and white, and they don't have a lot of nutrients in those foods. They tend to be more processed. So if we can track to color specifically and get our red colored foods, and red connects to inflammation in the body, really helping the immune system. And then orange, things like persimmons and mangoes and oranges and papayas and carrots and yams. Orange is the color of the reproductive tract, of helping us with hormones, hormone balance. So orange is important. Yellow is another color where I do think we can bring in some of the healthy yellows. So the lemons and ginger, and you made us, last night, we had some of your ginger tea. So bringing in even these colors through tea, it doesn't have to be through a food per se. It can be a beverage that has a lot of nutritional density, and tea happens to be one of those vehicles of a lot of nutrients. So yellow in the digestive tract, and then green in the heart. You're wearing this beautiful color green, and green is the color of healing and the color of health in general. It's the color of nature, and nature can be very healing. So bringing in a lot of the green vegetables, like leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables. And then I even talk about blue-green foods, things like sea plants. So green foods that grow in the blue ocean, and how those blue-green foods are rich in different minerals to nourish our thyroid. We need things like iodine and selenium. So much thyroid dysfunction these days and that's definitely on the rise. And then blue-purple, which you seem to like that color. I mean, it's very prevalent in the Pacific Northwest where we both live. We see blue-purple in berries, in different purple varieties of foods, like even purple carrots, purple broccoli, purple Brussels sprouts. So we're fortunate to have those kinds of purple varieties. And blue-purple is the color of the brain. So purple is precious because it doesn't often occur. But what we find from blue-purple pigments is that they seem to be very protective for the brain. They help with mood, and they help with cognition. So they help with brain health. So when I think of blue, like the bee in blue, or, I think of the bee of brain to help people remember. And then I think of white and brown. They're part of the spectrum too, but healthy white and brown. You and I were talking about coconut oil as a white. There's cauliflower, there's garlic. There can be many healthy whites. It doesn't have to be white sugar, white salt, white flour. And then brown, things like whole grains, things that have bran coatings that add to our fiber in the diet. Things like cocoa, which you and I also have a fondness for. Mm-hmm. So I think eating the rainbow is something that kids can really bring in. Everybody throughout their life cycle, we all can access that. It's a common denominator for all of us. So that's definitely the first principle. And I see you eating a lot of colors. So that must be something that you've been tuned into for some time?
Well, I think for us, it's been about eating fresh vegetables and fruits, and even more vegetables than fruits. You know, we lived in Florida for a while, and we ate a lot of fruit, but then we discovered we developed a rash on our elbows and knees, and what we realized, and somebody informed us, and this was after going to a clinic and saying what's wrong with us and being tested, they couldn't figure. Nobody asked us what we were eating. Well, it turned out we were eating. We were doing okay for a while because we were living behind an avocado grove, and so we would eat a lot of avocados and the the grapefruits and oranges and things like that. But then when the avocados went out of season, we didn't have that protein and that healthy fat. So then we ended up having this rash, and we were overdoing it with the fruits, overdoing it with the citrus, overdoing it with raw foods even. And so this was people, this was in the 70s, so we were self-educating. We were trying to understand, because we were coming off of a American diet. We were coming off of I won't say that my mother did TV dinners or anything, but she did her fair share of chicken pot pies and things and frozen foods and stuff. And so Dean and I had gotten so excited when we came into awareness about all the different aspects of food. In fact, we were in Boston once we'd gone there to follow some Indians, Native Americans, and so we were learning about them. Now they were eating meat and drinking coffee and that kind of thing. But the other people we connected with we had dropped a friend off at an ashram, and they were eating milky, creamy, yogurty things. So it was a mother kind of thing. Then we interviewed Michio Kushi, and that was, of course, all about macrobiotics, supposedly about eating foods in season and in the location, although obviously brown rice didn't grow in Boston. So, but those were the other one. And then the other person we met was Ann Wigmore, and you've sure heard of her, and she was the woman who started the whole sprouting thing. If anybody grows sprouts, it's because of Ann Wigmore coming and showing people how to grow sprouts. So her thing was raw foods and sprouts and wheatgrass and that kind of thing, and then but everybody's saying, eat this way, it'll heal you. Eat this way, it'll heal you. So we came back, our heads were spinning. We were living in Woodstock at the time, and we came back home, and we're like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And so we kind of just got to the point of really getting to as close to the source as possible and as close to organic as possible, and so healthy, vegetables and that kind of thing, and whole grains and things like that. So that's how far we'd gotten. But what I'm really appreciating and hearing your ideas is the different aspects of food that help in different brain and body functions and organ function and that kind of thing. And I think as we age, those are really, really important. So we're excited to learn more about it, because we're all just learning, as this is a new thing, because we'd kind of the modern world had gotten away from the natural way people used to eat, which was close to the earth. It had to do with growing food in their own gardens and farms. But now, of course, it comes from somewhere else. So where does it come from? How does it get here? What's it gone through? What kind of processing has it had? So, for us, eating whole, close to the source, organic as possible. And frankly, I attribute my health to liking vegetables. The fact that I like vegetables because I love vegetables, and I'm grateful, because some people who don't like vegetables, it's much harder for them to find a good way to eat.
That's true. At least you have that inclination to having them, so it's not a stretch. It's not like you have to find all these creative ways to just kind of get them in.
Right, but just to be able to talk with someone like you, who is a scientist, a biologist, you were on your way to becoming a doctor, but decided not to for various reasons. Right. But the fact that you've been able to come up with these kind of relationships between the foods and the different parts of the body and what the body needs. So that's something we're real interested in.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to talk about it with you and to share that with other people, because I do think it's confusing. Everything that you said about all the different diets that are out there, it's and they all seem like they make sense as you study them, right? And it's like, well, of course, sprouts would be good. It's living plant matter. And I think at the end of the day, what we're learning now is that everybody is different, right? And everybody has personalized needs. Everybody has different genes. Everybody has different susceptibilities. So I think as much as we can be in touch with our personalized needs, even on a day-to-day basis, We might need more protein one day and we just feel like we need that, versus another day, or another day we might need more, we might be drawn to green vegetables. I think whatever the case is, if we can work with a practitioner who understands this is one way to understand it a little bit more about the different tools that we have available now, to understand how do we have a personalized relationship with food. But we don't have to be so in our head either. I do think we have to be in the art. And I'm talking to a big artist in our field, right? So you know this. I think we also need to embrace the art of eating. And there's a lot lost in the art of eating because people are thinking so much in numbers, like how many grams of fat do I need per day? How many milligrams of this vitamin? And it's not just of the head. There are a lot of questions to ask with food. It's the why, the when, the how, and with whom. And all of those are questions of the art, the creativity aspect of eating, which is my second principle of food, and really embracing that there's an intuitive process, that we need to listen to our bodies, that our bodies are constantly communicating with us and giving us that sense of what we need if we're there to listen.
Well, you talk about community too, and the ceremony of food and the blessing of the food. I think that's something Dean and I have done all of our lives, is we just take a moment and we pause, and we got used to that, and our kids even had to endure it growing up, and we're out having a meal somewhere and we got to hold hands and bless the food, but it really, I think so many people just sort of dive into eating without acknowledging that this is a blessing to even have food. This food has been grown by somebody. It has been processed and taken care of and carried to your table by many parties in between, unless you're growing it in your garden. And then that even has its own story. So, I just think that coming together, you mentioned tea. When I was in Japan, I studied tea ceremony, and it was so inspiring to realize what a meditation tea ceremony is. The first thing we learned to do was just kind of clean the cup a little, with a rag, or fold the rag, get the cloth to clean the cup. And then I remember coming home and washing my dishes, and I was like spinning, turning the dish pan. And I just felt like suddenly I had this more meditative experience with the food, with the tea in that case. But I feel like it applies to food as well. And also sharing it with family and friends and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. Tea ceremony, ritual, how we come together in that act of eating, and how to make it more sacred and intentional. So I love we even did it last night before we ate dinner, right? Holding hands. In many traditions, they're saying grace or giving thanks. Or even sometimes I like to just have everybody just say an intention. What is our intention for this meal? How do we make it more intentional? And, nothing is insignificant as it relates to anything that we do, say, feel, think. And so whatever we bring to that meal is adding to it, much like the ingredients that are in the meal itself. The feeling, the energy, the company, the intention, all of it is nourishment, adding to the nutrition for the body.
And taking the time to chew. I think the challenge with people eating a meal and rushing off to work or school and grabbing, a bowl of Wheaties or whatever they do in the morning, and thinking that they're having a nourishing breakfast. But that feeling of rushing through it and then grabbing a quick bite of lunch and then coming home and watching a TV or, whatever you do. And so I think we've really lost that ceremonial aspect of fine dining in terms of the sense of bringing family and community together.
Yes.
I really like that.
Fast food is fast living. Fast living means fast food. How we eat is how we live, and how we live is how we eat, so that they're inseparable. And you can say so much about a person in their life based on how they're eating, what they're eating, when they're eating, all of those different things. And much like you can say something about how they're eating based on how they're living. Are they stressed? Because they might be eating stressed foods. So it's all interconnected. How we eat is saying something about who we are as people, which is why it's such a supercharged subject, and people take very strong views on it because it becomes who you are. It is your identity. And to that point, so color, creativity, my final principle with food for all people that I think, again, scientifically and spiritually, they go together is that of diversity. I was in Bellingham coming in yesterday because I was giving a seminar, and as I was going through the downtown area, I saw a big mural that said, "Diversity is our strength." And I was thinking that's exactly what I would say as it relates to diverse foods. Variety is the spice of life. And we see that variety builds resilience in the body. So the more diverse we are, with people, with situations, with events, with going with the flow, with taking a new way to work in the morning, with crossword puzzles, with different foods, getting out of our box, our food ruts, because so many people are in these very safe food ways of eating, right? Because we don't want to have to think about it. So I think that the more that we shake up all of those things, we bring in more spices. Yeah, I mean, it helps our gut microbiome. It diversifies our gut. When we diversify our gut, we diversify our brain. We diversify and help our heart. So diversity is a principle of nature. It's not my principle. It's just something that I brought into food more because I've just realized how people get really stuck in their lives. And many times that's reflected in ruts in their eating.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially because when you think about the different aspects of food, the minerals, the vitamins, the calories, the fats, the grams of this and the protein, they're all providing a different aspect to your body. And so, but no one food is going to do it.
Right.
And so the idea of diversifying and having a variety of foods, then you're going to get the natural balance of different things. So that makes so much sense.
You're right. I mean, it actually is very intuitive. And there are even studies to show that people who have a more diverse diet have a better nutritional status because they are getting exactly what you said, a whole array of vitamins, a whole array of minerals. Whereas if they're just doing one food all the time or just a few foods, it's been estimated that the average American gets like 5 to 7 different meals, and they rotate those meals through the week. So, it's like, how do we break that mold? How do we get 50 unique foods in 7 days? 50 unique plant-based foods, because those plants are what are creating the dynamic with the gut microbiome. Those microorganisms are chewing up those plants, creating these metabolites, changing the brain, changing the mind, changing the mood state, changing the immune system. So yeah, diversity is a huge principle in so many ways.
Great. Well, I'm impressed already, and I'm excited to diversify my diet as diverse.
You do a good job already.
No, I know I do, but I tend to do my onions and I saute the celery and then I get the vegetables and the thing or whatever grain I'm having, or if for years we didn't even do the rice and the potatoes or anything, but now I'm realizing it's good too. But I'm just trying to find the right protein balance, and so it's years ago I was having some issues I mentioned to you before about nausea and vertigo and stuff, and I wasn't eating enough. I was just thinking, I was more on that fasting concept. So having lived in Florida with the out in the land and in the orchards and stuff like that, it's like there was this idea at the time that was a new concept, and it was the cleansing fasting. So I think I maybe had too much of that, and I wasn't getting enough of the I didn't think maybe protein was that important. So anyway, it's just like, okay, we've got to look at all the parts and aspects of our lives. So it's exciting.
And you keyed into something right there about balance. In traditional Chinese medicine, there's the yin, the nourishing, the building, the replenishing. Then there's the yang, the breakdown, more the fasting, more the lots of, I would say, a lot of activity and generating a lot of metabolic changes. And how those two things come together within us, how the elements play within us, the fire, the earth, the air, the water, and bringing all of those things in balance. And each of the nutrients have their kind of yin-yang and even their elemental properties. So I think we learn through food. We learn through our bodies. It's a great messenger of wisdom. I mean, just even studying the body, studying food, you can just stay there and be set for your whole life in terms of what you gather. So it's been great to be here with you and Dean and to have these conversations about food, and it's beautiful. And really, again, what I get from both of you is that essence of creativity, moving with nature, moving with the flow of life, especially where you live, how you've lived your life, all of the music, the creative arts that you've embraced. And I thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for coming to visit us. It was a great opportunity to actually get to meet you in person. So thank you so much. And I also want to maybe add one more little thing, because somebody brought it up in your workshop yesterday about your system related to the chakras.
Yes.
And of course, we teach the chakras, and we've got the chakra music. So it was... obviously, we've known that, you do the colors, and, it's just a way. I feel like the chakras are a way of coming to understand the psychology of the different aspects of our being. So it just is a tool that we can use.
It's a tool, yeah. I often call it an operating system, so that people can navigate their body and their psychology. It's like adrenals, red, a certain vibration, a certain frequency, certain foods are needed, certain music is needed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant, tried and true, timeless system of understanding ourselves.
All right. Well, I think we're all ready for the timelessness of understanding ourselves, and very much appreciate having you come to visit us. Do you want to share your website or how people can find out more about you?
Sure. My website is my name, DeannaMinich.com, and so it's DeannaMinich. And there are a lot of, what I would say to go there for would be two things. One is I have a lot of information in the way of the blogs that we write, and then I have a lot of downloads for free. So helping people to eat the rainbow, helping people to have different practical ways to bring more color, creativity, and variety into their lives. So that's what people find on this site.
And what are some of the books, the recent books you've written?
Yes, so I have The Rainbow Diet, and I also have another book, Whole Detox. I have 6 books, but those are my most recent. So Whole Detox and The Rainbow Diet, which pretty obvious what the Rainbow Diet is about, all the rainbows that we find in our foods, and not just the rainbow of colors of food, but also how those colors change our ability to live a colorful life. And then Whole Detox is a holistic system of taking those 7 areas of our body and then reestablishing health and balance through them, through nutrition, through emotions, thoughts, physical activity, affirmations, visualizations, and meditation. So right
in line with that.
Yes. So because I realized that you can't just focus on nutrition, it's got to be a fuller context of many modalities. And so that's what Whole Detox does. It's a 21-day program to move people through the colors and move people through many modalities.
Well, it sounds like through your systems and processes and information, we're learning how to feed more than just the body. We're feeding the soul.
Yes,
and I very much appreciate
that's very well
that.
said.
Yay.
Thank you for saying that.
Well, thank you, Deanna Minich, and we look forward to continuing this conversation as time goes on.
I look forward to it.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for listening to Soundings Mindful Media podcast and Soundings Mindful Media YouTube channel. We'll be presenting in various places.